Over the course of my time following the Elon Musk companies, I have recorded videos. I have created chapters in one of my books. I have listened to others throw out absolutely crazy numbers about the future. And sometimes I've sat there and gone, oh my gosh, that is possible. And other times I've gone, that seems absolutely incredibly beyond any possibility of happening in our lifetimes. And yet some of this stuff is and apparently will come true. Today, I'm going to talk about the biggest one ever. And I'm going to ask you not to suspend belief. I'm going to ask you to poke holes. I'm going to ask you to comment and tell me where am I going wrong here? Am I too low? Am I too high? Is this just absolutely crazy nonsense? Hi, this is Randy Kirk, and today we're going to talk about Optimus. We even talk about Optimus a lot, but this is kind of not the final chapter, but it's a chapter that needs to be discussed, and that is, how much money can this beast make? So I'm asking folks to please join Patreon because I need to support what I'm doing here. The advertising is doing okay, and that you can help the advertising by liking, by subscribing, by jumping in on every video, by staying till the end. You know that really helps the channel if you stay to the end, even if you're bored, even if I'm like not getting it that time. If you just let it run out all the way to the end, that actually helps my my numbers. Anyway, but in addition to that, $5 a month, $10 a month would really help on the Patreon side as well. I do have expenses, believe it or not. There are people helping me to put this together. And then there's my time. It's worth something. All right, so let's jump into the subject matter at hand here. We have been doing a series of robot Optimus type videos over the last 2 weeks. If you haven't seen these and you're if you're even a little bit interested in the future of the world in a situation where there's robots doing tasks that we never thought robots would do, humanoid robots, you need to look at these videos. They are really incredible. We've had a very good response to these videos, but you need to go back and just start taking a look at one after another. They're all listed there on my channel. And you can just go by and pick the ones you like. But Scott and John and Joe have helped put these videos together. And these guys are experts. They know way more about it than I do. All I do is kind of look and see what Tesla's saying and what other people are saying and try to make some analysis out of it. So today I'm doing the same thing. Elon Musk has stated that the Optimus business will be the largest business he's ever built. And there's some pretty big businesses on the way. There's a $500 billion energy storage business. There's a $500 billion semi-truck business, I believe. There's a $500 to $700 billion automotive business just with the sexy cars. Then there's a possible $2 trillion business with with the robotaxis. So those are just a few, and I'll be delving into each one of those in more detail. I did one already that kind of looks at the energy storage and the car business going out to 2030, showing where the numbers are going to be and showing that just those two pieces, just energy storage combined with auto, could be $5,000 a share on the stock price, not counting robotaxi and the rest. I'm going to look at some of these other pillars during the rest of this week and early next week and pull it all together. I was kind of challenged to do this. So take a look and see what you think. Okay, let's go back to the specifics of today. Let me talk about some of the assumptions here. We're going to, first of all, we'll make the argument that Tesla can deploy about 100 million robots over the next 6 years. Now, 100 million may sound like a lot, but that's deployed. So each year you build some, that adds to the fleet. They don't go away. The ones from the prior year don't go away. You're always adding to the fleet because they're leased or rented or whatever you want to call it. And so each year you have a larger fleet that you're generating income from. So we're going to assume by the end of the 2020s, we'll have 100 million of those out there. Now, is that a big number? Well, it sounds like a big number when there's only 350 million people in the United States, but worldwide, there's over 3 billion workers, people that are working in some form or another. They're not children and they're not elderly. They're not somehow disabled, so they can't work. There's over 3 billion people that put in work every single day. So out of that, 100 million is a pretty small number. Now, that number is putting out 100 million robots, even if it's spread all over the world, it's going to be a dramatic help in third world nations and second world nations, lifting these countries out of poverty, even as we add a few, because if you've seen already what the effect has been of things like the iPhone in some of these countries, adding some additional automation, getting potable water into some of these countries, providing them with an energy resources that they didn't have by putting just a little bit of solar in a neighborhood can change everything. So putting in robots, yeah, it can be a very, very big deal, and it could advance these countries very rapidly. Now, people will make the argument, okay, there'll be competitors. How will Tesla be able to sell 100 million of these over this next 6 years? That China and other countries will certainly, they'll see the opportunity too, and they'll start to get out there and make lots and lots of these robots. They'll just reverse engineer and start doing that. Well, yeah, you can reverse engineer the mechanics. You can do that pretty easily. You can see, okay, this is the final product that Tesla's making. So we just need to reverse engineer all that, make exactly the same parts. But as you'll hear from some of these videos that John and Scott and I have been doing, it's not just about the mechanical aspects. The big deal is balance and hand ability, the ability of the hand to do work. And the robot requires a lot of software, a lot of learning, a lot of neural net is going to be required to make the robots really, really good at balance in all circumstances, and then also good at using their hands, which these hands are not going to be nearly as nimble or clever. They're not going to have sensors in them. So how do you do that? You do that with neural net. You do that with training. You do that with simulation. Well, there's only a few companies that are going to be able to come to bat when it comes to doing those kind of things. Let's assume some of them really do well. And let's assume that another 100 million robots get built between now and the end of the decade. That would make 200 million out of 3 billion workers in the world. We're still talking about something that I think would just be additive. It would not be taking away any jobs at that level. When you're still talking about less than 10%, it's adding to the ability of the world to be more wealthy and more productive, just like taking away tellers and putting in teller machines, just like scanning groceries and taking away clerks, checkout clerks, just like secretaries. There's no such thing anymore. Doing steno or doing typing. All of these jobs have been eliminated, and countries around the world have just gotten wealthier and wealthier, and unemployment levels have dropped to records in the United States and other countries. So I think this first 200 million, if really there's another company that comes along and makes another 100 million, it's just going to be additive to the economies. It won't even start to really reduce total employment. Maybe it doesn't even when there's a lot more. Okay. We're going to, we know that even in countries where the current pay rate is $4 an hour, that would still, an Optimus robot can do 4 shifts. In other words, they can work full time, 7 days a week, 8-hour shifts, 24 hours a day, 7 days a week. So at $4 an hour, that makes the robot worth $28,000 a year, even in that economy. So that's going to be one setup that we're going to do. We're going to figure that it's going to be lent out, rented, leased for $20,000 per year. But if the labor is $20 an hour, now the bot is worth $140,000 a year. If it's $30 an hour, that goes to $210,000 a year. So we'll have another set of, we'll take another look at the bot and what the profits might be if in fact the net value, the net profit to Tesla after all expenses and taxes was $50,000 per year. So $20,000 per year and $50,000 a year. Those are the two we're going to look at. It could be a lot more. Quite frankly, they could rent it out right now. The first year or 2 years, they could rent it out for $100,000 a year, and there would be plenty of takers. They would have no problem getting people to pay $100,000 a year for one of these bots. All right. So we'll look at those 2 use cases, and then we will also look at a slow ramp and a faster ramp. Some of these videos you'll see over the next couple of days. By the way, you should subscribe and hit notify if you'd like to make sure you get to see these videos, you don't miss them. With Scott and John, we'll be looking at what kind of a ramp is this going to be? Is this going to be a ramp like a car ramp? Is this going to be a ramp that's going to be more like my bicycle water bottle business was years ago, where there's no ramp? Is it going to be no ramp? It's going to be a big ramp. It's going to be hard, easy. Well, we're going to talk about that in these videos, and I'm going to suggest two possible ramps, one of which will be a little slower, one will be a little faster. And so that's what we're going to look at in these numbers. So let me now pull up the screen, and we're going to share here, and we're going to take a look at this screen right here. All right. So you can see across the left here, we've got the unit sales. That's in millions. So in 2024, I'm saying that they'll make $250,000. Now, you know that my number's $1 million. So in the second set down here, I've got the $1 million there. But in the first set, I'm going to say, okay, a slower ramp, only $250,000 the first year. Now, you could argue with me and say, Rand, there's no way they're going to make $250,000 in 2024. Well, you might be right, but I don't think I think it's be easy to ramp these. And I think it'll be a no-brainer to make $250,000 next year. And we can have that discussion. Please put in the comments what do you think the limiting factor is? What raw material, what part, what assembly problem, what learning problem, what software problem? What do you think is going to be the thing that would keep them from building $250,000 of these next year? Or in my best case, my real case, $1 million next year. Now you can see as we go along here, I suggest $1 million in 2025, then 3 million, then 5, then 8, then 12, and then 20. Now, those are accumulating. So I have here cum in service. So at the end of 2 years, you'd have this million from this year and 250,000 here. So 1.25 million in service, 4.25, and you get all the way to just about 50 million in service by 2030. I then have a more aggressive one down here where I start with $1 million, then 3, get up to 50 million per year being made. And then the cum in service, you can see, gets all the way up to over 100 million in service by 2030. Now we take the $20,000 per year case, and then we have a $30,000 per year case and a $50,000 per year case. That would be total income after all cost of goods, all customer service, all overhead, buildings and advertising and promotion and any kind of overhead you could think of, and even after taxes. So I'm saying this would be $20,000 per year after everything, net profit, cash flow, something you can use to do other things with or just take in cash. So if you do that, you get to 500 million the first year on that first scenario. At 250,000 made, at 20,000, you get $500 million in revenues going to 2.5, 8.5. And by 2030, you're up to almost $100 billion in revenue at the slowest ramp, at the lowest amount per year would be almost $100 billion in revenue. Now, again, argue with me. Is it, you think that it's going to be that hard to get to 20 million of these per year in 2030 when they're talking about making 20 million cars a year in 2030? I think this would be a lot easier than cars. So I think going quickly to the same number as cars and then passing it up, and getting to 20 million by 2030, I just don't see the issue. Okay, so then if it's $30,000 per year, that becomes 147 billion, $50,000 per year. Now you're talking about $246 billion in profit per year in 2030. What is that per share? Well, you can go ahead and you can look at the numbers here. By next year, by 2025, that would be $2 a share in profit. By 2030, that'll be $75 per share in profit. Now we take the more aggressive case. We take the more aggressive case. We say we're starting with just $1 million the first year, Whoops, something went wrong. I'm sorry. If you are a member of my my Patreon group, I will change these numbers in the Patreon situation. I guess I could change it here, couldn't I? This human service would become 1. This might, yeah, I might be able to do this right now in real time. Let's make this just the 1, and that would change everything. There we go. And then that would change that to 4 and 10. Okay, that all works. Okay, sorry about that. So at total here, then, if we get up to human service of 120 million, that could be as high as $600 billion in revenues, are $181 per share. Now, you can play, you can, pause, you can take a screenshot of this, you can go put these numbers out together, you can join my Patreon so that you can go on and you can look at these numbers, and you can even, these are live, so you could actually set up your own one right next to this on the page and put in your own numbers and play around with it. The truth is that these might be low. These might actually, both of these, be so conservative compared to reality. It is not going to be hard to ramp these. Once they've got them, it's not going to be hard to ramp. Will there be use cases? Elon says there's a use case for 8 billion. If there's a use case for 8 billion and you're only got 120 million of these in service by the end of 2030, and if somebody else has got 120 million, you're a long way from the TAM. So if I'm in business and I can ramp them faster, and I know that people are going to rent them, lease them, buy them, whatever the case may be, then I'm going to make them as fast as I can. That's what, I don't know. That's what I would do. Is that what you would do? So, all right, these are crazy numbers. I understand these are crazy numbers. You take that $181 a share and multiply it by even 20 PE. I'll let you do the math. These are crazy numbers, but that's kind of what Elon's been saying. This changes the economy. This is what Joe Justice said in a video that I did a couple of weeks ago. This is going to change the economy. This is going to change everything. And this is just at this very, very low level of production. I consider to be conservative numbers. Show me where I'm wrong. Join Patreon, hit the subscribe button and hit the notify button, because you're going to want to see these other videos that prove that this ramp is not that hard. Maybe it's going to be a lot more than this. And as usual, I will end by saying it's been great talking to you.